welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. I am your host, MongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about the Trish Stratus A&E biography, which I feel is the most incomplete and dishonest biographies that they have done since they started doing biographies. I'll explain right now. So, we get the entire story of Trish Stratus, which I think is pretty damn good. Of course, some of the more controversial elements of Trish Stratus is missing, like the barking like a dog segment, which did not come up at all. But what we got was still pretty good. You know, we got to learn about her how she got into fitness. She transitioned from modeling to, from med school to modeling. All that was fascinating. I thought that stuff was very good. Her meeting Michael Hayes and him telling her to send some photo shoots to WWE. All that stuff was great. You know, her talking about going to meet Ron Hutchison, who trained Edge and Christian, and they had photos of that. That was good. That was really good stuff. JR being very impressed with her, thinking she was basically the Pam Anderson of WWE, which is a perfect description. That was good. Her talking about being hazed by the girls, I thought was interesting because you never hear about that kind of stuff with the girls. Well, with them doing it to each other. Like you hear it with the guys all the time about, you know, dudes pooping in each other's bags or pooping in each other's sandwiches. So it's rare that people talk about the girls doing that stuff too. We know that Luna Vachon was a bit of a tyrant backstage. And you know how some people didn't like Sable, they didn't like Sunny or whatever. I get that, but I didn't know that Trish faced that too, so I thought that was very interesting. But when we started getting to some of the dishonesty, when they started talking about the women's division, they tried to frame this like Trish Stratus changed the women's division from bra and panties matches to actual in-ring work. They're trying to build this mythology around Trish Stratus like she's the Bruno Sammartino of female wrestlers in WWE. And I won't let it stand. I can't let them do it. I like Trish Stratus, I really do. But she was involved with the mud matches and the bra and panties matches, and she stood in the ring and barked like a dog and all that stuff. All that stuff is what made it possible for her to do some of the stuff that she was doing later. All right? It was you deal with this, you get this. She ended up being in the main event of Raw. She ended up doing I think she did one of the first women's cage matches. She did like one of the first women's no disqualification matches. She did all that stuff, but it was because she did all the sexy stuff too. You know, she was the femme fatale and, you know, was the seductress and all that kind of stuff. She did all that stuff too. But what they tried to put on us, they tried to perpetrate upon us, is that Stephanie McMahon and Trish Stratus worked together to turn this whole thing around. And I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. I mean, Trish Stratus, great girl. You know, some of her old stuff is fun. Some of the new stuff is fun. But trying to position her and Stephanie as these feminist icons in a male-dominated business, you know, trying to change the culture. Come on, man. Stephanie went and got boob implants around this same time. Stop playing with me. I'm too old for you to be doing this, man. It might work on the kids, but no, it's not going to work. Stephanie McMahon went and got boob implants around the same time, like 1999, 2000. Because that's what they were doing. All right, we could talk about her being... She wasn't even in the main event of the first Monday Night Raw. That's another thing that they keep saying it's not true. Stephanie McMahon and Lita was the first women's main event of Monday Night Raw. I wish they would stop saying that. I don't know why they insist on that not being a real match. I would imagine it's because of all the interference, but that's the Attitude Era. There's tons of interference in every match in the Attitude Era, but whatever. But the one thing that blew my mind, the thing that almost made me turn the documentary off, Peter Rosenberg. Now, I usually just ignore the talking heads that are contemporary on these broadcasts because I don't want to turn into Jim Cornette like, you weren't even there. You were watching it on TV. Peter Rosenberg, at near the end, says, "We may never get to see Mike Tyson versus Muhammad Ali, but we got to see Trish Stratus versus Charlotte Flair." Bro, whoo-wee. I understand, putting people over, wanting to stretch the truth a little bit, but that's one hell of a whopper you got there, son. My goodness, that was tough. I couldn't even ignore that one, brother. I can't ignore that one. That's too bad. That one was terrible. This documentary was fine. Talked about she retired at 30. She wanted to have kids. That was very important to her. But she had medical issues that was preventing her from having children. And so she had to basically not stress herself out too much. And she was able to have 2 kids. And I like the idea that she met her husband when they were kids. Like, she said she met him when she was like 6 years old. And they started dating at 16. And apparently they've been together ever since. That's a nice little love story. I don't know if I believe it, but it's a nice little love story. I was interested in hearing about her going to Maple Leaf Gardens to see Randy Savage, and how she was a tomboy that was interested in sports, and the tough life of her dad being an alcoholic and her parents separating. And I thought it was a nice story when she found out her dad had passed away, and she was going through his things, and she found, clippings of, him buying her magazines and having newspaper clippings and all this kind of stuff of her. It was all very sweet. The documentary was great if you're trying to counter the Medusa argument about Trish Stratus setting women's wrestling back, when in reality she was trying very hard, and she went to train with Ron Hutchison, and she went to learn from Fit Finley, and she always studied tapes of how to get better. But I don't think, it doesn't really quite work on me that Trish Stratus was this feminist icon. I don't like the portrayal of it. I think Trish Stratus is a more interesting character than feminist icon. I think she was a great bridge, where if you juxtapose Trish Stratus and Chyna, you get a full view of what women were in WWE. You see Sable, you see Chyna, and then you got Trish right in the middle. I think that would have been a better way to structure the biography, to make her look good without burying anybody else and telling the truth about what happened. Sable was 100% body, sex. She didn't want to learn how to wrestle. She didn't really care. You could put Sable in any kind of situation. As long as her boobs were out, it was great. Chyna was physicality. She wanted to be beautiful, but she was big. She was muscular. She learned how to wrestle. She could wrestle with the guys. I mean, she wasn't the best, but that was her strong suit, was being able to body slam and power slam guys and stuff like that. And then you had Trish, who was somewhere in the middle. She had all the looks of Sable, the gigantic boobs, the blonde hair, everything. But she was as fit as Chyna. She wanted to learn how to wrestle, and she put in the effort like Chyna to get better in the ring. So she was kind of, and this is all in the Attitude Era, where you saw how it was, okay, Vince is tinkering here. He's got the diva, Sable, who has no interest in wrestling, but she's a huge draw and everybody likes her. And then you have Chyna, who is a huge draw and everybody likes her, but she's kind of super masculine. And then you have Trish Stratus, who everybody likes, who bridges the masculine and the feminine very well. She's tough, where she can go out there and get busted open and get hit with weapons and all this kind of stuff. She'll jump off stuff and do cool spots, but she's also a beautiful girl. To me, that's the story. The story, completely ignoring the bra and panties matches like she wasn't involved in that stuff, is false to me. Tell the story as it occurred. And I think you can still tell the story as it occurred while also giving glory to the subject. You don't have to lie to put the subject over. And WWE has this obsession where Trish Stratus and Lita have to be the two girls who change the business. In reality, it was a collection. It was Vince tried it earlier with Sherry and Rock and Robin and all of them, and Fabulous Moolah, who they're not going to give any credit to anymore, and Mae Young and all them. Even though Mae Young was in there in the 80s, and then Medusa in the 90s, and then Sable. And Sable made women's wrestling a thing again. Like, the women's championship was brought back almost specifically for Sable. And almost all of the women who started to have it had no background in wrestling. It was like Deborah and the Cat. I don't know if they were really the champions or not, but all they really did was take each other's boobs out and, hit each other with pillows and stuff, right? And then they had to move away from that when Chyna came in, because she was really physical. And the only person who was really physical like her was Ivory. And then maybe Molly Holly came in later on. And then Trish Stratus was right in the middle of that. You could say that there was chaos in terms of what the women were supposed to be and how they were supposed to fit into the company. And then Trish gave them a little bit more focus because she put in the effort. Because she stuck around when Chyna left. And I think that's part of the story too, and you got to tell that story. It's not a dig at Chyna that Chyna left and that spot was open and Trish Stratus jumped into that spot and ran with it. It is not a denigration of Chyna to say that. It's not a denigration of Chyna to say Sable took off. Like, when Sable took off and Chyna took off, it made it easy for Trish to move in and do that. It's not a problem. Why not tell the truth? I don't know, man. But to me, it was the most dishonest biography out there. Very embarrassing. It seemed like they really struggled with this one. Like, because Trish was involved with so much controversial stuff, it seemed like they didn't want to expose any of that. But people who know. And you can Google Trish Stratus being involved with all this stuff. I don't understand why you just don't confront it. Let Trish, she's almost 50 now. Let her tell her side of the story. Like, look, I didn't have much choice in this, or I tried to make the most of it, or whatever the case may be. Which is what she said in interviews. She said in interviews multiple times that she basically just rolled with the punches and did it in the hopes that she could get something out of it later on. Which is exactly what happened. A lot of the stuff she ended up doing is what set her up for success later. Her angle with Vince ended up setting up her emancipation of her being more than just eye candy and her being a little bit more physical and all that kind of stuff. It set that up for later. Tell the story correctly so people can understand the ebbs and flows of people's lives and careers, not just hitting the highlights and then trying to paper over some other things with feminist icon Trish Stratus. Like, no. That didn't happen, okay? And Stephanie McMahon certainly was not a feminist icon at the time, considering she went and got a boob job. So forget it. Forget it. That's not working on me, brother. But what did you guys think? Let me know what you thought of the biography in the comment section below. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.